check, one, hey. Check, check, one, hey. But prang, prang. Check, 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 check. Hey, hey, check, one. Test. That's got that. Let's check, check. Hey, hey, one test. Hey, hey, hey. Check, 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 check. Good luck, check. Hey, one. Hey, hey. Check. That's what it. Check. Hey, one test. Check, check. Check, check.
Good afternoon. Yes, the symposium will start in 10 minutes. Good afternoon. Can we ask everyone to take their seat? We will start. Yes. For the others, if you want, you can sit forward. And then for the reactors, if they can come and sit here in the panel. That's Dr. Iglesias, Nasef Adio, Faye Cura, and Maria Maranan. Yeah, no, no, no. Those- Okay. Dulce. Game na? Game na? Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Global South Action on Palestine, a symposium engaging the Hague Group. Um, Today, the main sponsors of this event are the UP Asian Center, the UP Center for International Studies, and the Program for Alternative Development, the UP Center for Integrative and Development Studies, or SIDS. These are the hosts of this symposium. Just to give a brief overview, on January 31, 2025, convened by the Progressive International, 9 Global South countries, Belize, Bolivia, Colombia, Cuba, Honduras, Malaysia, Namibia, Senegal, and South Africa, established the Hague Group, an international organization committed to supporting the International Criminal Court, the ICC, the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, and the United Nations in its efforts to ensure Israel's accountability to international humanitarian and human rights law, with Israel's ongoing war and genocide against the Palestinian people. From July 15 to 16, the Hague Group convened the Emergency Conference on Palestine in Bogota, Colombia, to coordinate actions for the enforcement of international law. The Bogota Summit was attended by 30 countries, including global North countries such as Ireland, Portugal, and Spain, and by the major ASEAN country, Indonesia. The Hague Group is unique in 2 regards. First, it is a Global South initiated and led effort to end the genocide against Palestine. Second, it is so far the only international formation explicitly committed to support the realization of the inalienable right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, including the right to their independent state of Palestine. The symposium aims to inform the Filipino scholars, students, civil society, media, and policymakers regarding the initiatives of the Hague Group and to provide the public with an official update on Palestine and the Gaza occupation. Okay. So the opening remarks will be given by Dr. Ramon Guillermo, Professor and Director of Center for International Studies. So let's give him a hand.
Salamat po, Ching. Magandang hapon. Thank you very much for coming to this symposium. This symposium was co-organized by the UP Asian Center, the Center for Integrative and Development Studies, and the Center for International Studies. This is actually the 25th anniversary of the UP Center for International Studies. We were established with a mandate to be a leading source of knowledge of the countries of the world, to enable the Filipino to gain access to this knowledge and meaningfully relate to the outside world. This year also marks the 70th anniversary of the momentous Bandung Conference of 1955. This world historical event opened up a genuinely new horizon for humanity beyond the centuries-long era of colonial and imperialist domination by the European powers. For many, it even pointed towards the creation of possible new modes of social existence and the emancipation of humanity from economic, political, and cultural systems based on the exploitation de l'homme par l'homme, or the exploitation of man by man. The challenge of Bandung confronts us today in the search for a future beyond capitalism, sexism, racism, discrimination, inequality, poverty, dehumanization, and the relentless destruction of nature. Similar to the impact of Bandung, the heroic struggle of the Palestinian people for freedom and self-determination against settler colonialism, apartheid, and genocide has changed the world forever. The steadfast support and warm acts of solidarity of South Africa and many other countries in the global South to the Palestinian struggle has reconfigured global alignments and strategic alliances. There is no more walking back for the oppressed peoples of the world. The Hague Group is an example of these kinds of new initiatives. So we are deeply honored with the presence today of our ambassadors from Palestine and South Africa. Also with our esteemed, let's give them a hand. And also our esteemed reactors, our friends Sol, Nas, Faye, and Maria. Our center, the UP Center for International Studies, has always stood unwaveringly on the side of the Palestinian people. If you go around the campus, you will see a building with a big Palestinian flag, and that is our office. So actually it has two. So we have always supported the struggle of the Palestinian people. It has been said that we thought we were helping to free Palestine, but in truth, it is Palestine that has freed us. It continues to free us. Free, free Palestine. Huria Palestine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bowman. So now I'll call Ms. Clarissa Mendoza, the representative of Progressive International Philippines.
Your Excellencies, distinguished academics, fellow advocates and friends, it is my honor to stand before in today's gathering. A strong manifestation of moral clarity and collective strength of a global movement for Palestinian freedom, a testament of our shared commitment to justice, accountability, and rule of law, and an affirmation that the pursuit of justice, freedom, and dignity is a shared duty of humanity. My fellow council member of the Progressive International, Walden Bello, may not be physically present today, but he would like to extend his utmost support to the aspiration of today's event. For too long, international law has been treated as a weapon by the powerful, invoked when convenient, ignored when uncomfortable. But we said, not anymore. On January 31st of this year, the Hague Group, convened by the Progressive International, was founded by states from the Global South to rally against complicity and end impunity by collectively enforcing international law. From South Africa's leadership before the International Court of Justice to the courage of countries in Latin America, Asia, and Africa, the Hague Group led the shaping of historic realignment of the Global South, rising not solely in defiance, but in defense of humanity. As the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa, Ronald Lamola, said during the inaugural meeting, the Hague Group's formation sends a clear message that no nation is above the law and that no crime will go unanswered, and that the choice before every government is clear: complicity or compliance. Since then, many states across the world have enforced concrete measures through national legislation and executive policies, halting arms transfers, blocking weapon shipments, suspending procurement from Israeli firms, seizing energy exports, and ensuring accountability through national and international courts. But despite these, we recognize that there are so many things that need to be done. Specifically for Southeast Asia, it is only Malaysia and Indonesia that have engaged with the Hague Group. And today, we look forward to the Philippine government through our collective effort joining this global movement. And this makes this gathering even more imperative and our concerted efforts critical. Further, with the developments we are witnessing these past few weeks, let us all remember that a ceasefire is not the end of war. For instance, as of today, Israel has already committed over 50 ceasefire violations, killing at least 40 Palestinians and injuring over 140 individuals. Therefore, we must ensure that this ceasefire becomes a stepping stone toward a just and lasting peace, one that upholds the dignity, self-determination, and sovereignty of the Palestinian people. Alongside these legal and diplomatic efforts, let us not forget to draw inspiration from acts of courage, like the global Sumud flotilla. It is a mission composed of 500 activists from at least 44 countries aboard in 50 civilian vessels intending to deliver aid in Gaza. And one of the activists abducted by the Israeli forces is Progressive International's co-general coordinator, David Adler. And yet, Sumud remained with these activists. Sumud, an Arabic word meaning steadfastness. It is the very essence of the Palestinian spirit, shared by the people in the flotilla, by the Hague Group, and the global movement for the Palestinian cause around the world. May our discussion today be open, principled, and always anchored in the belief that another internationalism is possible. One that is grounded in justice and solidarity. Let us all continue with sumud and unshakable conviction. Thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to the insights, questions, and collaborations that will emerge today. Again, good afternoon. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Thank you, Clarissa. Now to introduce one of our main speakers. His Excellency Munir Y.K. Anastas served as the ambassador to the State of Palestine to the Philippines, to which he presented his credentials in February 2025. Before his appointment to Manila, he held significant diplomatic posts, notably as the permanent representative of the State of Palestine to UNESCO in Paris, where he led efforts in cultural heritage diplomacy and chaired key UNESCO conventions on cultural preservation. Educated in the fields of arts, diplomacy, and international relations, Ambassador Anastas has dedicated his career to advancing cultural dialogue, heritage protection, and multilateral cooperation. In the Philippines, he has actively worked to strengthen bilateral relations through engagements in media, cultural, and diplomatic exchanges, while promoting a deeper understanding of Palestine's history and enduring importance of international solidarity and humanitarian partnership. Please welcome His Excellency Munir Y.K. Anastas.
Thank you so much, and thank you for both the speakers. Oh, it's okay. And thanks also for the introduction at the beginning, where you covered part of the Hague Group issue. Mabuhay and good afternoon. Well, let me, before talking about the Hague Group, give you just some updates about the situation, the current situation in Palestine, in Gaza and the West Bank. As has been mentioned, the ceasefire did not cease completely. And right today, only today, there was 41 person killed by the Israeli army. And even the other days when there are no killing, there are restrictions for the arrival of a humanitarian aid. So the genocide did not stop completely, it slowed down only. And unfortunately, we are happy that the heavy bombardment and the heavy killing stopped somehow, not completely, but major part of it. Nevertheless, the problem is that the international community feels as if now it's over, now we can look somewhere else. There is nothing interesting there. Knowing that the problem is not only in the Gaza Strip that was almost completely destroyed. Following some statistics, 80% of the infrastructure and the housing has been completely destroyed. The schools, we're talking about more than 500 schools completely or partially destroyed. Completely, it is more than 150 completely destroyed. Universities are completely, 12 universities has been destroyed. Hospitals, you know that now there are very few hospitals working partially, very partially. And everybody is happy with Trump plan. Well, the positive thing and the thing that we welcomed, of course, it is the ceasefire and allowing the humanitarian aid to come in. But for the other points, we are not so happy with. And we ask more clarification, and we are in discussion regarding the other points. Now, with regard to the West Bank, unfortunately, the media during the last 2 years of the genocidal war on Gaza were focused principally on Gaza and forgetting the West Bank, knowing that in the West Bank what is happening and what was happening is not less dangerous what happens in Gaza. It's not the same scale of genocide, but it is a kind of ethnic cleansing and pushing the population to go out, as they say, between brackets, voluntarily. Because when you have no source of life, no economical activity, nothing to live with, then of course you will be pushed to look somewhere else. And this is what is happening. For example, this is the period of the harvest of olives in Palestine. And everybody knows that the olive oil is one of the major products of Palestine, and there are, I had the statistics, I forgot it, but something like 100 more thousand family depending on this harvest period. And what is happening there nowadays is that the settlers, they attack the Palestinians who try to harvest their olives. Worst, not only they forbid them and they steal the products, but also they cut the olive trees, which, you know, an olive tree to start giving fruits, it takes years. Yeah, sometimes 10, 20 years or something like this. So it is very, very problematic for those families who depend on the olive production. So unfortunately, well, in addition, there are other restrictions that push the population to, how to say, to think about migration, unfortunately. For example, in the West Bank, nowadays, there are 1,200 checkpoints. I'm from Bethlehem. In order to go, for example, to Ramallah, in the past, it took us half an hour, not more. Nowadays, minimum 1 hour 15, it's minimum 1 hour 15, but it could be 6 or 7 hours because we have to go through many checkpoints. And if the soldier want to have a break, just to smoke a cigarette and have his coffee, he closes the checkpoint and you wait, and that's all. Even if the population, they know how to adapt to this. Drivers, they created a group for them in order to send information, avoid this checkpoint and go to the other checkpoint and so on. But, you know, such kind of life, it's not a normal life. So this is with regard to what is going on. Now, next month, which is November, it's an important month for us, for Palestine. First, the 15th of November is the proclamation of the State of Palestine. It was proclaimed on the 15th of November, 1988 in Algeria. So in theory, it is our national day. And the 29th of November, it is the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people that has been proclaimed by the UN. It is a UN day. Why the 29th of November? Because it is the same date of the UN Resolution 181, which is the partition plan of Palestine that has been adopted in 1947, 1 year before the creation of the occupying power, Israel. There's only one thing that always I would like to remind people with, and it is very important for us to make it clear that our conflict with the occupying power, with Israel, is not a religious conflict. It is a legal conflict, it is a territorial conflict, it is a political conflict, but in no way it could be why I say this, that it is not a religious conflict. Because nowadays, whenever you criticize the Israeli policy or the Israeli government, you are immediately accused of being anti-Semitic, immediately. And this is how they have this control of Europeans. Europeans, they have this guilty feeling. They committed a crime historically, but they committed this crime. It's not the Palestinian people. We did not commit this crime, and we have no problem with the Jewish religion. We have problem with the occupying power. This is our problem. So don't be afraid and don't be ashamed if they treat you of anti-Semitic, because anybody criticizes Israel will be immediately treated as anti-Semitic. Now, with this has been said, maybe I will come back to the Hague group. In the introduction, it covered part of what I wanted to say, but for the membership, I would have started with South Africa rather in the alphabetical order, because everybody knows the action of South Africa in this regard. Now, this coalition that is mainly from the Global South and has been joined as it has been mentioned, in the Bogota summit by 30 other countries, not only from the Global South. You mentioned Spain, and there were many other European countries, I think Ireland as well, and some other countries. So this group has a clear mission, and it is to pursue the collective action through coordinated legal and diplomatic measures to hold Israel accountable for its grave violations of international law and international humanitarian law against the Palestinian people. It was born from a refusal to stand by while the international law is shredded and the people is erased. It represents a collective commitment to move from words of condemnations to concrete action. As it has been mentioned, the concrete action came very quickly, especially during the Bogota summit. Before just giving you an idea about these actions, I would like to quote a statement that has been mentioned at the creation of the group by the South Africa's Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamolla, he said, I quote, "The Hague Group's formation sends a clear message. No nation is above the law and no crime will go unanswered." And I think this is the essence of this group. You know, the impunity of Israel is unprecedented. No state in the world has the benefit of such impunity. I had the number of resolutions condemning Israel and asking Israel to refrain from different actions. I think we're talking, if you collect not only the UN, I mean General Assembly and Security Council, but the other specialized agencies, for example, at UNESCO, only at UNESCO we have more than 100 resolutions since 1968. The first resolution that has been adopted regarding Jerusalem in UNESCO was asking Israel to refrain from excavations in the old city in and around the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And since then, the resolution is reiterated each 6 months because the executive board of the UNESCO meets each 6 months, and it is reiterated each 6 months, and Israel continues the excavations and they continue their violations as if nothing was there. Unfortunately, of course, the resolutions of the specialized agencies are not binding like the Security Council is. But even with the Security Council resolutions that has been adopted without veto, which is very important to note that, for example, 242 asking Israel to withdraw from the occupied territory of 1967, it had no veto at that time. And the latest one, it was regarding the illegal settlements in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. And it was adopted at the end of the period of Obama and John Kerry. They didn't support it, but they didn't oppose it. So it has been adopted and it is binding, but nevertheless, they are expanding the settlements. And there was a bill a few weeks ago in the Knesset in order to annex legally, following the Israeli rules, parts of East Jerusalem and to extend the settlements there. And one settlement, which is located between Jerusalem and Jericho, it is Ma'ali Adomim, and parts of the other settlements around Jericho. But this group shows us that there is a possibility when there is a will. And nowadays, this group of The Hague that is composed of countries that were marginalized during the last century, which is not too far, actually. So now coming back to the concrete actions instead of the condemnations, I will cite them briefly. Well, first thing, and it is the most important one, is halting the flow of arms to Israel. Knowing that Israel, without the flow of arms, but especially from the US and other European countries, Israel would have never been able to continue during 2 years this genocide in Gaza. Then blocking complicit vessels from their ports. And we noticed what happened in countries who, for example, Italy did not yet recognize Palestine, but there were some issues in their ports. Same thing in Turkey, same thing in Spain, and many other European countries. Third thing, cutting public contracts that support the illegal occupation. And this has been covered, the importance of such a measure has been covered by Francesca Albanese. If you followed her report, she developed how this economical complicity is also guilty and should be stopped. Then legal accountability, supporting robust investigations and prosecutions for international crimes. And we have many examples, starting by the example of the case that has been raised by South Africa at the ICJ, for example. and the other cases in the ICC as well. And finally, using the national courts to prosecute crimes committed in Palestine. And it happened in several European countries and South American countries, where they arrested soldiers who were involved in the genocide, who were filming themselves and laughing whenever they kill people, destroy homes, something like this. So this also was a very important measure. So with this concrete action, with such measures, this is the only way to put an end to the Israeli impunity. Because with the support of the US, Israel feels absolutely protected, more than protected, and they have nothing to worry about. Of course, now with the again the Trump plan, some people think that, oh, he's now pressuring Israel. Well, he's doing well. I think no. Trump, he wants to get rid of the Middle East problems because it is not his priority. His priority is somewhere else. It's near by here, this country. It's not far from here, his first priority. So that's why he wants to stop the mess in the Middle East, as he described it, in order to focus on the major issue for him in this region, actually. So the significance of the Hague Group extends far beyond the specific measures that I have mentioned. It represents a profound shift in the global landscape. For decades, the enforcement of international law has been hampered by geopolitical power plays and the veto power as well in the UN Security Council. The Hague Group comprised largely of nations historically marginalized, as I mentioned, in global governance, but now it is asserting leadership to reclaim the system from the brink of irrelevance. It is a powerful example of a global South solidarity, stepping in where traditional powers have hesitated or actively obstructed justice. The Hague Group is more than a diplomatic club. It is a beacon of hope for us Palestinians. It is a very important initiative that we salute, and we thank South Africa as well as the other countries that joined this group. It embodies the principle that justice must be pursued, not just proclaimed, not only words, actions. It reminds us that the rules protecting all of us from atrocities cannot be treated as optional. And unfortunately, this is the case. For Israel, human rights and international humanitarian right is optional. You know, they try to respect it whenever it is in their favor, but when it comes to the Palestinian people, it's not accurate for them at all. As Colombian President Gustavo Petro declared after the Bogota conference, I quote, "We came to Bogota to make history," and we did. Together, we have begun the work of ending the era of impunity, end of quote. I think this is a starting point, the Hague Group, and the summit in Bogota was an important event for this group. As I mentioned, it was the commitment not only of the members of the group, but 30 other attendancy were committed to the actions that I mentioned. So the road ahead remains long, and the challenges are immense. But with initiatives like the Hague Group, the path toward accountability for the Palestinian people and the integrity of our shared international order is finally being paved with action. From The Hague to Bogota, with echo all over the world, just like here today, voices for Palestine are rising in solidarity. The Hague Group stands as proof that coordinated state action is possible. Our message is clear. We will not rest until justice, freedom, and peace are secured for the Palestinian people. And here I would like to quote a very important statement by Madiba, by Nelson Mandela, who for us remains a historic leader and a reference for all people looking for freedom and justice. So Nelson Mandela stated in 1997, it was at the occasion of the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, he made the following statement during his speech. It was in Pretoria. I quote, "But we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians." So I think, I don't know who mentioned it, that Palestine, finally, it's not the issue of the Palestinian people alone. It's not our problem. It is really a universal problem. It underlines the global universal injustice in the world and in the multilateral system, unfortunately. So that's why I think such events are very important to raise awareness about the importance to speak loud against injustice, against illegal occupation, not only in Palestine, wherever it occurs. It should be combated, it should be stopped. And impunity is unacceptable, not only for Israel, but unfortunately I have no other examples in mind. If you have any example, tell me. But impunity should stop. And the only way is by actions, not only declarations and statements. Thank you so much, and free Palestine.
Yes. Thank you, Your Excellency Munir Anastas. Our next main speaker is the Ambassador of South Africa to the Philippines, Her Excellency Bartina Radebe Netshizende. She holds an MBA from the Management Institution of Southern Africa, earned in 2004, along with a postgraduate and an advanced diploma from the same institution. Her expertise spans a wide array of areas, including microfinance strategies, human resources development, project management, stakeholder engagement, and strategic management. Her career trajectory as civil servant spans for over 25 years, which includes significant roles within the African National Congress and governmental agencies such as the National Intelligence Agency and the Energy Department, where she served as the head of the ministry. Beyond her professional achievements, Ambassador Netshizende is recognized for her activism in human rights, workers' rights, and gender equality. A long-standing member of the ruling party in South Africa, she is esteemed as a freedom fighter and a champion for community empowerment and gender rights. Please welcome the Ambassador Netshizende.
Thank you. Good day. Maraming salamat. I would like to say, Excellency, thank you for inviting me to share the stage with you. But as South Africans, we do not think we are important. We think it's a solemn right for every human being who lives on this planet to fight what is right and what is human rights to everyone. The Hague Group in particular is an important rallying and practical support for the people of Palestine, who for years together with us knew no freedom. We are now free as South Africa. And it is aimed to push and isolate the Israel government to its procurement by stopping procurement, in particular the arms and other procurement into other countries. Colleagues, if you buy equipment, special arms from Palestinian, for us it's same as buying the arms in South Africa under apartheid. Very few knows, I can tell you, South African apartheid was powerful, 10 times powerful than Palestinian, and they were friends, because they are all based on the issue of racial hegemony and racial isolation. If you were to buy goods from a Palestinian, those goods are draining in the children's blood of Palestinian. As Christian, we have a solemn right. We have a solemn right and a human right to isolate apartheid, just like apartheid Israel, just like we isolated apartheid South Africa. I will tell you, very few knows. They can call everyone anti-Semitic except South Africa. You will never hear that word said. And people ask, why are they not calling you? Because our struggle, our first Chief Justice in South Africa was a Jew. The people who made us sleep in their houses when we were running away from South Africa were the Jews. Those who were isolated were coming from East Africa, were housed in South Africa and became South African. Our first chairperson and the Minister of Housing was a Jew, Joslovo. The first woman to have killed by letter bomb in Mozambique in exile, she was a Jew, Ruth First. So we know what it means. We have nothing against the Jewish people. We have everything to do with the Zionist government in Israel. That is very clear. We are a Christian country in South Africa, make no mistake. Make no mistake. I am a Christian. I was telling them that I'm a child of a bishop of the Methodist Church of Southern Africa. So we know what we're talking about. We stand, all of us in South Africa, for the Palestinian, because we know what is it about. When we started the ICJ case, and when South African delegation arrived in The Hague, we were called, they arrived the troublemakers. Our struggle against Israel isolation has been long coming. If you all know, we've always stood firm, precisely because we were very clear about our own context. It had similarities with the Palestinian. Annexation, movement of people, control of the people, racial isolation, and propaganda against the people who literally want to be free in their own country and determine their own laws and obligation. The other thing, that has nothing. As he stated, Nelson Mandela was once interviewed in the US, and he was asked, what is this that you have a relationship, Arafat? He said, your enemies are not my enemy. I carry my own water. You must carry your own water. Everyone must carry their own water and be informed by their own context. And that was very clear. So it's important that this thing is contextualized properly. So the Hague, in general, group started in January 2024. We tried to talk to the Jews. We used the South African Jews who were influential in South Africa. My first boss when I was in the intelligence was the minister of Ronnie Cassels. He was a Jew. So I know, we tried to use them so that they can talk to their maybe their brothers to say what is happening. But there was no movement at all. Actually, we were seeing viciousness of the Israelis against the ordinary children and women in Palestine. Ladies and gentlemen, these things happen in the clue of our eyes. Really. Tomorrow it will not be a Palestinian. Tomorrow it will be somebody else. And everybody will know and solidarity. Our struggle in South Africa was based on 4 pillars, I've said it. One was apartheid isolation, one was international solidarity, one was armed struggle, and the fourth was mass mobilization internally. And we succeeded because all 4 pillars we put in, we combine them and we intense them. We are standing here today as we talk about the Hague Group because we understand what it meant for us to take a Palestinian to the ICJ, even at our own expense. The trouble that South Africa is finding itself today, from in particular the Western world, It has nothing to do with other things, including the tariffs. They have been weaponized to send a message to the world. You think we are smart like South Africa, will deal with you. The advantage that we've always had, I said it to Ambassador, is because the Southern Africa have rallied as a Southern Africa. 450 million people rallied to support us in the Southern Africa. And we still have our natural and old friends. We still have Angola, we still have Namibia, we still have Zimbabwe, we still have South Africa. For you to cross border, you need to cross all those countries and Mozambique and come to South Africa. So we have that caution that we have. And that is the dilemma that forced us to take the apartheid Israel to ICJ, because we knew that Palestinians seems like a vulnerable and isolated incident. It has been years with the first resolution in 1968. Nothing has moved an inch, including today, including the peace. It's a fake peace. Nothing is happening. We are, as South African, when we arrive at the, we call Dream Team, very few people think it was all South Africans who were there. No. We had Ireland that had given us scholars to assist us. We had some British legal scholars that gave us one of the scholars to assist us so that we can take the matter up. We had no other alternative but to take the matter to ICJ and ICC, because if we do not that, then you have allowing impunity to go. We have gone 4 times to ICJ. When you go for the 5th time, we think it's now the time to have similar things like in Nuremberg trials, that everyone who has been involved must be prosecuted by everyone. It is not an easy thing, but it is our only final resort. So that is when we're going to the ICJ next time, is to go to create a Nuremberg trials that we want all the Hague group to be involved in, to prosecute anyone, so that anyone involved in genocide must be doing that, so that every child know that it's not going to, it must not happen. Because if it happens, it can happen to anyone, anywhere. We've seen now how they have invaded Venezuela. We cannot allow, if people continue like doing like that, it can be a problem. Yes, we are suffering in South Africa because we have 30% tariffs. We have got AGOA that we are told that we may have let go of it. But we are striving and making means so that we can put a better world, a better Africa and a better world. That is all our things. So the ruling in January found that there was a possible, but now they've also confirmed that indeed Palestinian is under genocide. And anywhere there is a genocide, so you have annexation, you've got killings, and with impunity, there must be accountability. So what we need to do, a week since the ceasefire in Gaza came into effect, the so-called ceasefire, tens of thousands of Palestinians were trying to return to their livelihood so that they can be able to live with their children under the rumble. But we've seen that there has been an upward killings by the Palestinian government. It is no more even a genocide, it's clear killing of children and women. Last week, after more than 2 years, almost close to 70,000 Palestinians have been killed. So we need to scrutinize the peace plan that is in place. I'll quote our former minister, Dr. Naledi Pandor, who said, "It is important to make sure that Israel answers in court for the Gaza war and several other isolation." Yes, the ceasefire was a welcome step. We want to end the killings, all of us. But we are concerned. Why are we not moving even an inch in that place? South Africa, having taken and catered the Hague group, we have faced huge backlash from the US, precisely for the ICJ and the ICJ case together with the APEC. We have been actually on the crosshair of the US. Every time they talk about everybody, we've also been trying, they've been trying to surround us by pressurizing our neighbors. We're very fortunate. We have not reached that stage where they are being effective in the other countries. Indeed, our relationship with Washington remains deteriorating to a point in decades. Because of ICJ case, nothing else. We are even being accused that we are committing a genocide against white South Africans. We do not mind. They can take them. They're 7 million. Let them go. Because if they believe it, it's up to them. We cannot be able to be explaining ourselves from time to time. It's a great pity. Almost only maybe 200 or 7,000 they want to go. Others don't want to go. Because in South Africa, apartheid structure is still in place. You know, they is still in place. They are still the richest. They are still the ones who are more educated. We just want them to go and work in the farms in the US so that they can know how we felt, some of us. I grew up in the farm. I work for a white man. I know what it means. So we just want them to live so that we can have peace. We don't want anything. We are very clear about that. You want to take them? No problem. 7 million so that we can have our land and our peaceful things in order. The issue of the land is sacred. It is sacred to South Africa. It can never be changed by anyone. Our land was brutally taken from us. I personally, my family was dispossessed 4 times from both my mother and my father's side. I know the pain of apartheid. I was telling my mother that I have been locked up under apartheid. I was 17 years, highly pregnant, when they folk marched me in the streets to take me to jail for 2.5 years without trial. I know the experience of torture. I got my child in jail. Within 3 weeks, my father came and collected the child after the intervention of the international solidarity. So when we are here, we are mobilizing you to know the truth of what happened. We're talking from personal experience, some of us. And they used to call me the biggest terrorist. I don't look like a terrorist, you all can see. I'm far from it. But indeed, I did fight for freedom. As long Palestinians are not free, whether you call Hamas terrorist or you call anyone, there'll be other groups that will fight. If you perceive that you are not free in your country, you will take extraordinary measures. You'll be called sorts of names. Not because some of the methods you use are correct, but because of the frustration. You just have to continue fighting and bring the matter. And our case to ICJ was precisely to stop whatever militance is happening, to find a more legal and a more diplomatic way of bringing pressure to the Israeli government so that when the Palestinian can be free. We are called that we demonize Israel, but we do not demonize Hamas. At some point, I was called Hamas. I'm here standing. I don't think I look like Hamas. Yes, when I was in the struggle, I had my AK in the back and my children in the front, and I fought like a thing. But that is past. That is what it means when you fight for freedom. When everything has come to an end, we handed over our arms. We integrated into the defense force. We actually were the ones who were at the bottom line. But we know sometimes the issue of freedom comes with sacrifices, you know, but it's something that we don't have to forget about it. So having talked about the Hague group, we are excited that we're starting it because we just think it's practical ways of dealing with it. So I think it will be important that some groups in Philippines join the Hague group and we have become effective, because as we think that we are far from the whole things, no one is immune from these incidents. You know, you can see the world geopolitics have changed drastically. Some things are used to weaponize. The tariffs are used to weaponize. Everybody would have think that Philippines will have 7% or 10% tariffs. We are sitting at 19%, yet you have 9 bases of the US. You must ask yourself. Those are the questions you ask yourself. But also, you must ask yourself, you don't want any person standing between you and China. Let it be Philippines and China that deals with their own differences. I will tell you why I'm saying this. When we got our freedom in South Africa, before I stand down, we had South Africa was occupying Namibia, not only South Africa. The white regime in South Africa was occupying what is called Namibia now. And when the Cubans, the Russians, so I'm just telling you a perspective so we understand why the relationship, some of them are so tense between us. The Russians, the Cubans, and the Angolans help the Namibians to encircle South Africans, because now the Angola was one which was under threat, because they would attack and they would go into Angola halfway and occupy Angola. So the Russians, the Namibian, as we planned that, immediately they go in, we'll encircle them. We had already know how to encircle them into Angola. Angola is a free country by then. They were encircled. Namibia was liberated in 3 days. Because if you don't remove your soldiers, your generals' bodies, there was a fight, 3 days they rot. That's how humid and hot Angola is. And Namibians were free in 3 years, and SWAPO took over. SWAPO were together with them in the camps, but they took over. So I am saying to you, I'm trying to tell you that one of the things you have to fight for your struggle. So when they retreated back to South Africa, they took Walvis Bay. It's a big region. It is where the oil base of Namibia is. Without that oil, Namibia is a desert without anything. And it cannot sustain themselves economically. Remember, because most of the freedom fighters in Namibia were also sent to Robben Island. They served sentences in Uyoma and Ivory in Robben Island. There were strategies that were planned in Robben Island. How do we get to our freedom, and when we come, what can we do? So when they retreated and when we got our freedom in 1994 in South Africa, the first resolution that we passed in South Africa, Mandela proposed, was to give Walvis Bay back to Namibia. We didn't have oil. We could have taken it and bullied Namibians, but they needed it. We pushed the resolution. Namibians took their own Walvis Bay. Today, they are part of the OPEC, Namibia. They have their region, but they are our neighbor. What do you do to your neighbor? You talk to your neighbor. You understand your neighbor's context. You do that on your own behalf, in your own terms. Even if you let the tension between you and your neighbor. We gave them. Namibia, even today, they stand with us. They could not believe it, because the territorial issue is very important, as you all know, with the West Filipino Sea, South China Sea. If it doesn't get resolved, it can create a lot of problems. So it's important that we understand the context of other countries how they've done that. We have done that with South Sudan. It was also South Africa that created South Sudan as a liberated an entity to stand on its own from the main Sudan. For we understand that the complexes between South Sudan and Northern Sudan were not going to be resolved, because it's more Christian and Muslim, and there were a lot of, a lot of tensions there, and it was going for years, and it was not bringing any relief. We facilitated it in the work. South Sudan is a free country, it has its own problem, but it's better if they sort their own problem among themselves. So having said that, I hope I haven't said a lot, but I was just sharing my history and the Hague. Thank you very much. Salamat po.
Thank you, Ambassador Martina Radebe Nechizenze. Anyway, so now we have the reactors. I will introduce all the reactors at one go, so that after they give their comments, we will have an open forum. Okay? So the first reactor will be Dr. Sol Dorotea Iglesias, Associate Professor at the UP Department of Political Science. She teaches subjects such as political analysis, comparative politics, and human rights and international relations. She has a PhD in Southeast Asian Studies and an MA in Political Science from the National University of Singapore, as well as an MA in International Affairs from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University. She's a member of the Editorial Advisory Board of New Mandala and a co-convener of Women in Southeast Asian Social Sciences. She has published extensively on political violence in the Philippines, on Philippine politics and current affairs, on political conditionality in the European Union's relations with Southeast Asia, as well as regionalism in Asia and Europe. Our second reactor is Dr. Nasef Adlyong. He is the Director of the Policy Research and Legal Services of BARM. This is the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, Parliament's Policy Research and Legal Services. He is also the founder of 4 academic networks, including Philippine International Studies Organization, or FISO. He researches policy issues affecting the Bangsamoro society and explores decolonial knowledge sources of the Global South, as well as the interdisciplinary study between Islam and international relations. Ms. Faye Kura, our third reactor, is the writer and editor and publisher of Gantala Press. a feminist small press in the Philippines whose recent publications include Pagkat Tayo Man Ay May Sampaga, New Philippine Writing and Translation for a New Palestine, or a Free Palestine. Faye represents Gantala Press at Publishers for Palestine, an international alliance of independent publishers. She spoke recently on Palestine and publishing at the Literal PRO Radical Book Fair in Barcelona. She also volunteers with the Amihan National Federation of Peasant Women and helps in their campaigns for food security, peasant women's rights and welfare, and national sovereignty. Okay. Last but not least, Maria Marana from Comiqueros for Palestine. They is an activist, organizer, and artist. They are the National Education Officer of the Socialist Youth Organization, Samahan ng mga Progresibong Kabataan, and was previously head of the local Spark chapter in Ateneo. They graduated in 2024 as the Program Awardee of AB History and as recipient of the Dalisayan Art Award for Illustration. Maria tries their best to balance comics, political work, and a day job. So please welcome the four reactors. Yan na lang. Yan na lang. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, just to remind the reactors if they can keep their comments for 8 minutes each. Okay, thank you. No, no.
Thank you so much for the invitation to speak. It is my honor to react to these powerful speeches by the ambassadors of Palestine and South Africa here in the Philippines. And so what I would like to first talk about, as a scholar, sadly, of political violence, in relation to the genocide in Palestine, which I say genocide in Palestine very deliberately as part of my own expertise, is the question of the death toll. Because violence scholars often look at the death toll, and it is important, because what we know are about 67,000 direct deaths 2 years after the start of the current round of conflict on October 7, 2 years ago. But researchers are beginning to show the real extent and the fact that on one hand, the Ministry of Health in Gaza estimates of direct deaths is most likely correct and accurate. If we also count indirect deaths, for example, through famine, and those that are simply undocumented, given the experience of previous conflicts and episodes of this kind of violence, it could be as many as over 180,000 as of a year ago, and so possibly even much, much more by now. So as also a member of the Network in Defense of Historical Truth and Academic Freedom, I'd like to highlight what Ambassador Anastas mentioned earlier, the destruction of schools and all universities in Gaza. This is a concept that we are coming to grips with in the academe, a phenomenon called scholasticide. The deliberate destruction of schools, universities, libraries, but I would add to that epistemicide, the destruction of knowledge about a people, a culture, a history. And so when we think about the genocide in Palestine, this campaign to erase the Palestinian people that has been going on for decades, but has come to a crucial turning point now. And I'm afraid one that will leave us with epistemicide and genocide as a legacy in years to come. One wishes not. And that's why we're here today, to resist. So I would like to, given this framework, and given the framework of the failure of the international community to act decisively to avert genocide, particularly the implementation of the ICJ's findings. The paradigm is Gaza plus Ukraine, because the ICJ also weighed in on Ukraine. And you have the European Union, for example. Let's discount the United States. But you have the European Union, for example, acting in a very different way in Ukraine compared to Gaza. That is the paradigm, and that is the signal failure of the international community. I'd like to talk about the ceasefire, because of course we welcome cessation of hostilities, and in particular, actually, when we say ceasefire, it's mainly actually for Israel to stop genociding Gaza and killing Gazan civilians at this stage. It was negotiated with minimal Palestinian involvement. It's a victor's deal, agreed upon by Hamas with Palestinians in Gaza as hostages. So it's a deal secured at the end of the barrel of a gun. It is devoid of human rights and humanitarian law, respect for humanitarian law, even international law, broadly speaking. This agreement is this death knell, it signals, the continued fracturing, weakening, and demise of the post-war international legal order. So I actually want to go through some of the points of the so-called Trump plan. Even the name of it alone, and the fact that commentators, academics, journalists refer to this as the Trump plan, not even a US-led broker deal or something along those lines as we're normally used to. And it just that narrative alone signals the fundamental problem with this deal, that it panders to an idiosyncratic, emphasis idio, sort of idiosyncratic personality who happens to be the President of the United States. So just a few things that are in particular cause for concern. Other aspects of the security aspects have been highlighted, I believe, often enough by other institutions and so on. I would like to focus to some extent on the economic plan for Gaza, the so-called quote-unquote redevelopment for the benefit of the people of Gaza, right? Full aid, for example, that will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip upon acceptance of this agreement. How the hell, excuse me, could aid have been held hostage in a peace negotiation? This reinforces the violation of international humanitarian law in Gaza and Palestine. That Gaza would be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a quote-unquote technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee, close quote. What is apolitical? What is technocratic? What is this nonsense, in short? There would be a board of peace, nothing more Orwellian than something like that, right? Chaired by Donald J. Trump, and other members and heads of state, including former Prime Minister of the UK, Tony Blair, whose credentials in Iraq are unimpeachable, right? So, and then here we come to the economic development plan. A Trump economic development plan, I'm quoting from the text, to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created, etc., etc. They lost me at Trump Economic Development Plan, because that sounds to me, as this report, early reporting on this plan already sounded to me as a program for ethnic cleansing. Depopulate Gaza, raze it to the ground, and then create this Gazan Riviera, right? A holiday spot built on the bones of the people of Gaza. So there's more. And I invite you to read the text yourselves. What I would call for, and what I urge the Hague Group to consider, we need a better successor agreement to this. The ceasefire is important. We need to stop the guns, even if the guns have not stopped. As of yesterday, I believe 100 killed and more than 300 actually wounded. So the statistics, there's a range. We need a better successor agreement that is based on humanitarian law, human rights, and crucially, that includes justice for perpetrators and rejection of Israel's genocide. It needs to be multilateralized, because the US and Israel, as the guarantors of peace, is not a multilateral solution. It is a victor's solution, right? It needs to be facilitated at least by the United Nations, if we can find someone better. Maybe the Hague Group. So we need to find at least begin an open dialogue on a just and sustainable peace to replace the Trump plan. I think I'll stop there in the interest of time. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Nasef from the Bangsamoro Parliament. Few probably suggestions. The first one, it is quite ironic and oxymoron to say that this is a Global South Action for Palestine, and yet the name is Hague Group, a place from the Global North. So if I may suggest to somehow consider a place from the Global South, because information language or terminology or label is quite very important to somehow control information and also to influence policymaking, public opinion, or elsewhere. Just like what Israel is doing, they're trying to control social media, the opinions of different countries, lobbying to many congresses. So probably consider a place from the Global South. Second, the composition of the Group of the Hague. Belize, Bolivia, Colombia, Cuba, Honduras, Namibia, Senegal, South Africa, and there's only one Muslim country, Malaysia, and none from any from the Arab countries who probably even initiated to become a member of the Hague Group, a Global South Action for Palestine. Although I know that we had a ministerial meeting last month with other countries to extend the 6 measures that you are proposing, but you know, the third point that I'd like to tell you is the state of the Muslim world. We all know that before, centuries ago, the Ottoman Empire somehow rules the flow of information, the materials, etc. But at the decline and diminishing and disintegration of the Ottoman Empire, that's where many of these nationalist problems started. For example, how the Zionists co-opted lobbying during the League of Nations until to the United Nations. They were very, very successful compared to their counterpart, the Palestinian counterpart, in lobbying for a state for themselves. So that's what we got, the state of the Muslim world, the Global South Action for Palestine. Now, what's the essence or significance of Palestine to Bangsamoro? As you can see, we have a similar experiences as what like the Palestinians have experienced for century. Similar to the Bangsamoro experience is that we have also been marginalized, we have also been co-opted, we have also been, discriminated as well. you go to history books, Philippine history group, Philippine history, none stories from the Bangsamoro that you can think of or even read. If there will be a Bangsamoro history in your classes, it will be just like 1 or 2 page that talks about Bangsamoro history or the Muslims in the Philippines. And also the media, how the media, the social media and the conventional media of the Philippines depict Muslims in Mindanao or the Muslims elsewhere in the entire Philippines. Um, and that's also somehow a mirror of what's happening to the Palestinians. Before, the Muslims were, the Bangsamoro have larger territories, and now it's shrinking. And now last year, the Supreme Court decided to exclude Sulu from the BARM. So it's now disintegrating slowly and gradually by the national government. And as you can see, they gave us autonomy, and yet up to what extent is the autonomy power given to the Bangsamoro if there is a perennial interference of Malacanang? I don't know when the Bangsamoro will exercise their right to suffrage, to elect their own leaders, because it's always been postponed and postponed. And now the Supreme Court decided to postpone again the first parliamentary election this October to next year. But I don't know when it will happen. So similar to the marginalization, similar to what I've experienced, I think what we can also, the Bangsamoro, be an inspiration to the Palestinians is that they tried to renegotiate, they tried to discuss with the Philippine government that they wanted to have their own share of the resources that is rightfully for them. Similar within the Bangsamoro, there is a dialogue between not only for the Muslims, but as well as for the indigenous peoples, the Lumads, and as well as the Christian community settlers, and as well as the Chinese, and the Balik Islam. So there is a rampant negotiations of equal sharing among the Bangsamoro because of the organic law that was established in 2019. And I think this Bangsamoro experience can also be an experience as well for the Palestinians. Way back when I was doing my PhD, my first publications was about Palestinian refugees. And I was struck with the data that I got when I was doing my research, how the Arabs treat their own fellow Palestinians. Can you see rich, powerful Arab countries, Gulf countries, UAE, Qatar, how they treat Saudi Arabia? Can you imagine in 1969, because of what happened, the arson attack in Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, that they called up and they grouped themselves and established the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC. I think that's what they, famous about. They only see OIC of what's happening, and they just pronounce of support of what's happening in Palestine, but there are no concrete actions. Can you imagine? Look at the literature, how the Arabs people treat the Palestinians. It's very degrading. And look at refugees alone. There's one non-Arab country that have accommodated a big population of Palestinian refugees, not only Palestinians, but Syrian refugees, Turkey. Compare their own fellow Arab countries in West Asia or in the Middle East. So I think I will stop here because I would like to see how are we going to converse and provide more solutions. So change the name to a Global South country, Global South place, because it's a Global South action. Information is very powerful. Language making is very powerful, just like what Israel is doing when they lobby to many Congress, and also as well as, I hope that many of the Muslims. In fact, conclusion, the Bangsamoro government, not the Philippine Congress, let me get my data, enacted 2 legislative resolutions. In June 17, 2021, the Bangsamoro Parliament enacted or adopted a resolution condemning violence against Palestinians by Israeli forces targeting innocent civilians, including women and children, and the desecration of Al-Aqsa Mosque in the holy month of Ramadan, and urging world leaders to act for the immediate cessation of the hostilities. Another action done by the Bangsamoro Parliament, not the Philippines, because I'm trying to look at if the Philippine Congress have acted any resolutions in support of the Palestinian cause. None, zero. Even the present administration, President Bongbong Marcos, he said that he stands with the Israel in war against the Hamas or against the Palestinians. That's the position of our government. Second, in legislative action done by the Bangsamoro Parliament, a resolution adopted on October 17, 2023, condemning the acts of violence and collective punishment against the people of Palestine and calling for the immediate declaration of unconditional cessation of hostilities between Israel and Hamas and the establishment of a humanitarian corridor for Gaza. So as you can see, the Bangsamoro have always been there calling for support for Palestinian. The Bangsamoro government and many of its stakeholders have boycotted many big corporations that are explicit and implicit in support of war making in Israeli. And many of the products have also been boycotted by the Bangsamoro government. So this has been the concrete actions that done, even though we're a very, very small region society, community in the Philippines, still we're doing our part in support of the Palestine. And I hope that the Philippine government will also do so, the same thing that the Bangsamoro Parliament has done. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. For my response, I would like to talk about an example of solidarity from among the people themselves, no? Because the Hague Group is composed of states, but the Boycott Frankfurt Book Fair campaign was driven by ordinary citizens, particularly cultural workers and artists, writers and readers, no? So I would like to share on how the campaign went about. The Frankfurt Book Fair was concluded on the second week of October. So I prepared a chronology of events. So immediately after the 2023 Frankfurt Book Fair, Publishers for Palestine was convened, and the international network promptly released a statement of solidarity with the Palestinian people, condemning the silencing of Palestinian voices in publishing and the media and the killing of journalists in Gaza. The statement also called to stop the genocide, hold Israel and its allies accountable for their war crimes, uphold the call for boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israeli apartheid, and center Palestinian voices in the publishing industry. Citing the Frankfurt Book Fair's support of Israel and its close relationships with the genocide-complicit German government and multi-billion-dollar publishing multinationals with massive investments in Israeli tech, AI, and surveillance, Publishers for Palestine called for a boycott of the Frankfurt Book Fair in January 2025. The network began sending out emails to participants of the 2024 Frankfurt Book Fair, urging them to boycott. And out of the 50 or so emails that Gantala Press sent, only one publisher from Singapore replied. At least it was a positive response. So meanwhile, in the Philippines, the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, with the United States resulted in 13 U.S. military bases in the country as of 2023. The 2024 and 2025 Balikatan military exercises became the biggest iterations so far, with 14,000 troops from the US, Australia, and Japan participating in 2025, and the latest weapons and military vehicles from Israel being showcased. In the Philippines, the discussion surrounding the boycott of Frankfurt Book Fair began to intensify in March 2025, when Israel violated the ceasefire agreement and launched surprise attacks on Gaza. On International Children's Book Day on April 2, Gandala Press, Publishers for Palestine, and Paper Trail Projects organized an online discussion about the boycott. This was followed by several on-site discussions in universities. Counter fairs were organized, most notably the Palestinian Liberatory Book Fair, held simultaneously with the FBF in Frankfurt in October, featuring a panel discussion on the people's struggles in Palestine and the Philippines, as well as an exhibition of Palestine-related artworks by Filipino artists. In the Philippines, the Ateneo Institute of Literary Arts and Practices and Better Living Through Serosography organized mini counter fairs also on the week of the FBF, with discussions as well as selling and trading of Palestine-related publications. A handful of Filipino writers and publishers withdrew from participating at the fair as October approached, and about 300 writers, artists, publishers, art collectives, writers groups, literary journals, and other organizations in the Philippines and abroad signed the boycott statement released in early October by Gantala Press. Still, the Philippine delegation, consisting of at least 100 writers, publishers, and artists, including national artists and Nobel Peace Laureate Maria Ressa, set sail for Frankfurt. The same prominent writers that dismissed and even criticized the call to boycott later made self-congratulatory posts on social media, with one insisting that the Frankfurt Book Fair is, a quote, a much larger platform to speak for freedom and justice, unquote. They also pointed out the accommodations that the guest of honor stint made for Palestinian voices, now because the Philippines is guest of honor in this year's Frankfurt Book Fair. So the accommodations include the panel discussion on quote-unquote relational solidarity involving two Palestinian writers, and quote-unquote trauma journalist Patricia Evangelista's speech condemning the killing of Palestinian journalists. A more exhaustive critique of the guest of honor endeavor is due for another time, but it is worth reiterating at this point that the call to boycott is endorsed by the Palestinian-led Palestinian Campaign for the Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel, or PACB, founded in 2004. In fact, the BDS movement was inspired by the BDS movement also that was done for South Africa, yeah. So to boycott is primarily a political act requiring sacrifice for some. So I know of at least 3 international independent publishers that chose to boycott despite the huge economic loss for their business. So it is directly heeding the Palestinians' actual call, which has been their call for decades, to dismiss the call to boycott as mere self-righteous moral posturing by its proponents reflects a narrow bourgeois and individualistic perspective that is nothing but malicious and harmful to any collective act of resistance and solidarity. And resistance is more effective if it is communal rather than solitary. The Boycott Frankfurt Book Fair campaign has forced Philippine literary and cultural institutions to declare where they stand on the Palestine issue, and it is the same stand as that of the Philippine government, which remains a staunch ally of both Israel and the United States. It also became an opportunity for the public to reflect on other social issues, such as the import-dependent, export-oriented publishing industry in the Philippines, like other industries, no? The prevalence of colonial mentality even among intellectuals, where cultural validity, legitimacy, and value are sought in international and still mostly Western capitalistic platforms, and the possibilities of dissent and resistance from small and local independent publishers and creators. In forums, statements, press articles, and even Facebook posts, the role of culture in settler colonialism and genocide was exposed. October is also Peasant Month, and the Palestinians' defense of their land was connected to Filipino farmers' long struggle for genuine land reform. The Palestinian flag waved proudly at the Independence Day rally in June and at the massive September 21 rally in Luneta against corruption. But more importantly, The Boycott Frankfurt Book Fair campaign has led to the organization of artists, cultural workers, and young people around the Palestine issue in particular, and for larger social movements in general. Networks such as Salam Palestine, or Solidarity of Art, Literature, Academia, and Media for Palestine, Comiqueros for Palestine, and Mindanao Book Workers for Palestine were consolidated. They joined organizations like the Philippines-Palestine Friendship Association, Ateneo for Palestine, and Filipino Youth for Palestine in advancing Filipino-Palestinian solidarity, calling to end the genocide and for the sustained anti-imperialist struggle in Palestine, the Philippines, and internationally. What we need to emphasize is that boycotting the Frankfurt Book Fair does not end this year in 2025 when the Philippines is guest of honor, as I mentioned. We must boycott Frankfurt Book Fair and all complicit institutions until Palestine is liberated. And this will need a deeper and sustained understanding of and engagement with the issue, which will hopefully lead to a deeper and wider commitment to the anti-imperialist struggle. Likewise, we should not stop at simply boycotting. Writers and cultural workers should continuously hold the Philippine government accountable for its complicity in the genocide and demand government institutions to use the people's money on projects that actually advance mass literacy and local literary production and publishing, not projects that are biased on the side of profit-driven big publishers or elitist writers in English. We should discern how the imperialist agenda is perpetrated not only in Palestine and Sudan and the Latin American countries, for that matter, but also in the Philippines. And we need to fight this if we don't want to be the next Gaza and West Bank. Let us join people's organizations that may not necessarily be focusing on Palestine, but also fight for self-sufficiency and national sovereignty in the various sectors. Let us continue to read, translate, write, and publish about Palestine, because literature is memory, literature bears history, and literature helps create the future, a future where from the river to the sea, Palestine is free. Salamat po.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Okay, I think we're all awake now. Hello, my name is Maria Maranan. I am a core organizer of the volunteer cultural group Comiqueros for Palestine, and I am also the National Education Officer of Samahan ng Progresibong Kabataan, or SPARC. So K4P, or Comiqueros for Palestine, was established earlier this year, just like what Ms. Kuras shared about the Frankfurt Book Fair. We were established to forward this campaign for a Filipino boycott of the Frankfurt Book Fair, because this year the Philippines was the guest of honor, and the guest of honor in that biggest book fair in the world. It's not a merit-based position, it's a paid position. So can you imagine such an unnamed amount of public funds was spent on this Zionist institution? No, that's why we really had to emphasize the boycott call for the Philippines this year. And we're Comiqueros because, well, we wanted to make more of a wave in the cultural scene, no? But also the National Book Development Board, they see Filipino comics as one of the most sellable parts of our literature. So it was a big part of the Philippine Pavilion at the NBD, at the Frankfurt Book Fair, no? And even though the guest of honor stint continued, you cannot deny that the campaign made waves, just like what Ms. Kura shared, no? They were forced to include Palestine in the Philippine Pavilion, basically, no? I believe if not for our consistent efforts throughout the year to talk about this, to bring it up, even to a lot of people's chagrin, they would not have as much Palestinian-related programming in the Philippine Guest of Honor, no, sa Frankfurt Book Fair. But the Frankfurt Book Fair and the Philippine Guest of Honor stint just concluded, no, recently lang. So at the same time, while we're also still very critical of the Frankfurt Book Fair next year, we also have to continue highlighting other avenues for boycott, divestment, and sanction here in the Philippines, no? Because the campaign with the Frankfurt Book Fair boycott showed that a boycott movement in the Philippines is possible. We can put our energies towards something with a very concrete demand, no? And we can have concrete outcomes as well. And there are a lot of things that we can consider for BDS in the Philippines, no? One of which is the very city we are in right now, Quezon City. Because Quezon City is the city in the Philippines with the closest ties to Israel. Quezon City has had a number of partnerships, friendly ties with Israel. And the narrative they are using is that Israel wants to be friendly with Quezon City in particular because of the namesake of the city. This was established by the President Manuel L. Quezon, who is a hot topic right now, because of his open door policy to Jews escaping the Holocaust in the 1930s. Which, hold on there muna, right? Are you talking about like there's already Israeli statehood in 1930s, if that's the narrative you want to use? So that's how they're kind of playing with history, right? And if you ask me, if we really want to honor that kind of legacy from Manuel L. Quezon, you will not be having friendly ties with the Zionists, with the occupiers, with the entity committing genocide. No, you would be siding with Palestine. Last year, we actually had a meeting with Spark. We had a meeting with Mayor Joy Belmonte of Quezon City. And you know what? She told us, she told us, I hear you, I understand your concerns about Israel, so just trust me. And I'm sad to say, Mayor Joy Belmonte does not keep her word. So we really need to keep up the pressure. It's also been brought up that there are lots of military ties as well. No? One example is they have the AFP here and the Israel occupation forces. They have these partnerships where they exchange. Hello? Okay, thank you. What was I saying? Oh, they exchange information and tactics about counterinsurgency. So the experience they have from red tagging and killing activists here in the Philippines, now they're exchanging it with the information naman about apartheid and occupation and genocide. No, that's horrible. And also the buying arms as well from Israel. These are things that have to be exposed. We need to expose these ties. Another thing I want to talk about is something we do in Comicators for Palestine whenever we have an event, for example, and we have a discussion. We always try to we talk about the history of Palestine. We talk about the occupation, because as Ambassador Anastas said earlier, there's this idea right now that because there's a ceasefire, people think that it's over. That's the narrative now. Now, that's the narrative that we have to combat, that it's over. But just as Ambassador Anastas said, the genocide is not over, it's just made more slower. But just because it's slower does not mean it's not as deadly. Because genocide is not just bombs. Genocide is famine, it's starvation, it's illness, it's epidemics, and that continues to kill thousands, more than thousands in Gaza. So what we do in Comicators for Palestine is we use our activities, our art, in order to educate more about how it's an occupation, it's an ethnic cleansing, no, it's a genocide. And we also educate about the importance of the boycott. Unfortunately, if you don't educate about the boycott, sometimes it turns into something that people imagine as something just moralistic or individualist, no? Like, you don't go to McDonald's or you don't go to Starbucks because you don't believe they're ethical, which is true. But we also have to understand the political aspect of it. That there is a political strategy to boycotts, no, that we want to make the efforts very pointed and precise in order to optimize the impact, because the impact is what we are really after. And one thing I want to say as well is that we also need an anti-war movement here in the Philippines, because that is totally related to the movement for Palestinian solidarity here in the Philippines. We heard earlier from Ambassador Anastas again, that the United States, they have this idea that they want to redirect their resources and attention from Israel and Palestine towards here, to this region, to Asia. Why? Because they're looking at China. And we're getting stuck in the middle. While the United States is sending arms to Israel, and while they are the guardian of Israel's impunity, they are also building military bases here. We are also victims of US imperialism, and we need to see that connection. That's why we have this chant, from Palestine to the Philippines, stop the US war machine. So we need to see these connections. And just as we heard in the speech of the ambassador of South Africa as well, that the fight of Palestinian liberation is not just the fight of Palestine, but the fight of the whole world. If it can happen to Palestine, it can happen to anywhere else, to anybody else. And the situation with Palestine, the genocide, the occupation, the apartheid, the ethnic cleansing, if it has shown us anything, it's shown us the failure of international law, of these international bodies that are supposed to supposedly protect order and peace. But it cannot do so. It has totally failed to do so, especially in Palestine. So if these laws and institutions, these structures, cannot account for Palestine, that means how can they be applicable anywhere else? How can they be applicable to us or to anywhere else in the world? I'm also from the Gen Z, and from Comcare for Palestine, and also from Spark, since we're a youth organization. No? We have seen that not just in the Philippines, but across the entire world, Palestine is a unifying concern for the youth. We're coming of age in a world where we're watching genocide happen. We're watching it on our screens happen. We see all of these pictures, these videos coming out of the genocide. And it's really radicalizing for a lot of young people today. And it's making a lot of young people today come out on the streets, voicing their support for Palestine and their indignation against genocide and occupation. And I think that's at least a silver lining that we can hold on to, that we are continuing this fight, and that for the youth, Palestine is non-negotiable. Palestine solidarity is non-negotiable for a lot of young people today. And since we came of age during this time, especially during this recent issue of genocide, it's going to stay with us. I can tell you that for me and for a lot of my comrades, this will stay with us for the rest of our lives. Even if we are here in the Philippines, we're some people may dismiss it as what's your relation to Palestine? Of course, there's a relation. We are global South countries. We are historically colonized. We are victims and survivors of imperialism. And we are human beings. And if we fight for Palestine, we are fighting for humanity. That's why we're continuing with the boycott. That's why we're continuing with all of these solidarity movements, with these efforts to educate and arouse and organize. No? Because while we talk about our own issues here in the Philippines, and there are many, at the same time, we do not let go of Palestine. So you can count on that for the youth. Okay, so let's chant again. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Okay.
Okay, yes. Thank you to our actors, Dr. Sol Iglesias, Nasef Adyong, Faye Cura, and Maria Maranan. Okay. Now we're going to have the open forum. Now, if you have a question or comment, please state your name and your affiliation. But since we're running out of time, can you just please be concise? No? But before we call anyone from the floor, I'd like to recognize a member of the House of Representatives, Honorable Elijah San Fernando. From the party list, Kamanggagawa, I think you have a resolution or statement to read. Yes. Ahina. Mara.
Maikli lang po, Your Excellencies, but I'd like to call you our comrades, our friends. This representation is here to extend the unwavering support of the Filipino working class to the Palestinian struggle. Your struggle is our struggle. Your cause is our cause, and your pain is our pain. And that is the reason why we have filed the House Resolution number 344, urging the Philippine government to join the Hague Group to affirm its commitments to international law and conventions, and to support global efforts to hold Israel accountable for atrocities in Gaza and to uphold Palestinian self-determination. Let me tell you a quick story. Before filing the House Resolution 344, I was supposed to avail of the privilege hour and to deliver my privilege speech before the House of Representatives. But the Rules Committee denied me of that right on the basis of mere technicality. Sabi nila meron na daw kasing mga nakafile na House Resolution on Palestine. And I struggled. I told them, yes, there are 3 resolutions about the Palestinian struggle, but this is of a different subject matter. This is about urging our government to join the Hague Group. Long story short, hindi po tayo pinayagan na makapagsalita doon sa House of Representatives. And I think that gives us a picture as to how this government, the House of Representatives, treat the subject matter about the Palestinian struggle. For the information of everyone, there are 3 House resolutions filed before the House of Representatives, 2 condemning the genocide committed by Israel to the Palestinian people, and this resolution, House Resolution number 344, urging the government to join the Hague Group. All of the resolutions that have been filed are still pending in the Foreign Affairs Committee. Hindi po umuusad, hindi po gumagalaw. And makikita rin ho natin yung itsura sa House of Representatives. There are very few legislators who support the Palestinian struggle. Kanina, I was talking with our comrade, how many legislators are supportive of Palestinian struggle? I counted, there are only about 10 legislators out of 314 legislators. Not even the Bangsamoro legislators have filed any resolutions. And that answers perhaps the question of our friend, the MP from the Bangsamoro Parliament. Even the Bangsamoro legislators, wala pong final na resolution on the Palestinian struggle. And that speaks a lot. But as what my comrade said earlier, not everything is lost. There is still hope. At least we have 10 legislators in the House of Representatives who are very supportive of the Palestinian struggle. And I think doon po tayo po pwedeng mag-umpisa to build pressure so as to compel legislators to act on resolutions and interventions in the House of Representatives and both houses of Congress for that matter regarding the Palestinian struggle. Wala pong rason kasi na hindi sumama ang ating bansa dito sa The Hague Group. Ang ating bansa po ay state party at signatory sa iba't ibang international conventions. The International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, Geneva Conventions, and the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. That is the Genocide Convention. And we also have that obligation under our domestic law, the Republic Act number 9851. So we have supported international instruments historically with regard to the Palestinian struggle to self-determination. So there is no reason for our government not to join the Hague Group and to extend our solidarity. So yun po ang commitment ng kinatawang ito. The commitment of this representation is that while we are few in the House of Representatives, that doesn't necessarily mean that the voice of the Palestinian people ay hindi po maririnig doon sa House of Representatives. We will do whatever we can to amplify the voices and the struggle of the Palestinian people. Onti man, pero naniniwala po ako na makikita ng mga kasama ko, kinatawan sa House of Representatives, yung pagiging wasto ng pagsali sa The Hague Group at pagsuporta sa Palestinian struggle for self-determination. Lahat po ng binanggit ng ating mga reactors at ng ating mga kasama dito, yun po ang rason kung bakit dapat nating suportahan ang pakikibaka ng mga Palestino para sa kanilang sariling karapatan na makapagpasya sa kanilang sariling mamamayan. So yun lang po, maraming salamat. Your Excellencies, our friends, our comrades, maraming salamat po.
Yes. Okay, so thank you, Congressman Elijah San Fernando. Yes. Questions from the floor? So can you please state your name, affiliation, and who you will address your question to? So maybe, yeah, the lady first in blue. The lady in blue, yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. I am Baybon Dilanggalin Sangid, former chairperson of the Young Moro Professionals Network, Israel Mashab scholar on peace building and conflict resolution. I am very, my concern is addressed to the Ambassador of Palestine. And of course, congratulations to our two diplomats here. Madam, from South Africa, we were together in Bikutan jail with Secretary Tila. So, sir, my question is like, I'm not, I don't think Hague can make any difference with regard to the Palestinian cause. Palestine and the Philippines are in the same boat. Just in case you guys forgot, we were the cause of their misery. The Philippines sway vote after round 2 voting in UN 1948 created the Nazi Zionists, created actually the communist Bolsheviks. Do not forget that. Communist, Bolshevik, Nazi, Zionist, terrorist Israel. They are created to expand the Nazi British expansion in the Middle East and to forever control the Middle East. That is for the record. Just listen to the Western, independent journalists like Gray Zone and other independent journalists like Redacted and Novara, some British organization. And in fact, the Philippines were even attacked by the Nazi diabolic gangster in the Middle East. Where can you find that Norway ordered all the
Sorry,
Philippine...
but can you tell us what the question is? What is the question? Yes.
I said that I am not comfortable with the Hague. And I do not understand why the Palestine accepted the fact that there is such a ceasefire. There is not. Day one of the Palestine Trump plan, there was bombing and there was killing. And if, in fact, even if not in Gaza, in West Bank, in Ramallah, and all areas there, trust me, when I was there, I was even hostage in the airport for almost 2 hours. Imagine a kid would be coming and looking at me. I said, "Are you immigration officer? Why I am your scholar. Why I was, separated from the big group?"
Okay,
And
so
wait.
maybe
That one, sir. Next, why is it that you are not engaging the Arabian Peninsula? Yes, they are all puppets of Nazi UK. Forget about US. US is just implementing the British plan.
Okay, thank you.
And I think if I give you some points, please tell your people to stop, saying mashallah, alhamdulillah. Direct to the point. In 1923, Nazi British embedded dozens of terrorism organizations, Haganah, Ergon,
Sorry.
Stern. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, can we allow the ambassador to reply?
Okay. Well, there were two questions and one comment. Well, for the Hague Group, unfortunately, I don't agree with you. I think it's very efficient and very important for us. I mentioned in my intervention, as well as my colleague ambassador of South Africa, the importance of such a group. First, this is the first group that highlighted the fact that statements and condemnations alone, words alone, are not sufficient and we need actions. And this is what happened with the Hague Group. They took decisions with actions, concrete actions, and it has been implemented by many countries. Just like, for example, stopping the vessels of Israel trading weapons or weapon pieces with Israel, etc. All these things are very important. I mentioned also the arrest following the national legislations in some country for the IDF terrorists and who committed crimes against humanity in Gaza. So that's why I think the Hague Group is very important. Besides that, it is important on the global level. We can compare it, but on a different, of course, level, to the BRICS. It is one of the coalition that is opposing the hegemony of one superpower on the international scene. This is the first thing. Second thing, why did we accept the ceasefire plan of Mr. Trump, as they call it? I said it also in my intervention, that we see in this plan only two positive things. It is the end or the stop somehow of the continuous genocide, bombardment, and destruction. This is the first thing. Second thing is the humanitarian aid that was supposed to enter freely and continuously, which is unfortunately not completely the case. And I said that all the other points for us are not totally acceptable and are more than discussable. We said it because for us, there should be only one legal governance. It is the Palestinian government in both sides of Palestine, the West Bank and Gaza Strip. And this question of the board of peace or whatever that includes, excuse me the word, this incompetent at least, or a crook even, the Tony Blair. Tony Blair, despite the question of Iraq, but he was also in charge of the Quartet for the Peace in the Middle East for more than 8 years. What did he do? Nothing at all. The contrary. He did everything possible to make it inefficient and useless. So that's why we were actually accepting this ceasefire. It was, as it has been mentioned, it was also under blackmail. Yeah? Our purpose is to stop the killing of our people. This was the first purpose, and to stop the destruction of what was left of the Gaza Strip. Now, for the Arab Peninsula, it is for the Arabs to answer this question, not me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador.
I'm just going to support the ambassador just for one thing for sure. I'll tell you something. Fighting for freedom is not easy. Take it from us. We also come from 70 years of fighting for freedom. It's never easy. Any positive step is better than non-step at all. One of the things that the Hague group is trying is to be practical. We had an apartheid support for South Africa. It was called support for anti-apartheid movement. The anti-apartheid movement was precisely doing what the Hague group is doing. Mobilize support internationally. Isolate Israel. That's what we are doing. Number 2, sanctions against Israel. Because the other thing I would like to tell you, the more the enemy see itself isolated, the more vicious it gets to be. It gets frustrated and becomes vicious and becomes worse. I explained the situation of South Africa. It was the same towards the end. Apartheid was more vicious. There were more killings. Because they were frustrated, because the world was turning the tide against them. That's what we feel we see in Palestine. And what we need to do is just to hold steady in the isolation and have more amplified voice against it. Because if we do that, Israel will definitely fall, like it or don't. That's one thing for sure. I explained the issue of Namibia, that they were so frustrated that they had to go back to South Africa, their hometown in South Africa, because they were now isolated and there were more players in the world. So what we do under the Hague, it's actually the more progressive things that has ever happened to Palestinians for now. Because if you remember, we started very few countries supporting Palestinians openly. We have now 166 that is passing resolution in the United Nations. We have Palestinian on top of United Nations, just like apartheid was on every agenda. So we have to keep steady and fast, never isolated that. Some people are saying we knew, of course we knew Trump was playing, but it's becoming clearer that if we do not expose what the plan was, it was a matter of giving, on the Palestinian side, show goodwill, because immediately don't accept goodwill. You'll be like a perpetrator themselves, because you are called terrorist and other things, all those kind of names. So you have to show goodwill, but also it was to give Palestinian a breathe, for them just to breathe, even if it's 5 minutes. They're human beings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Yes, on this side. Yes. Yes, please state your name and affiliation. Yes, any questions?
Thank you very much. My name is Rafi El-Hawi. I am the president of Philippine Arab Cooperation Council Incorporated. I have no question at all, but for Ms. Maria, when you were speaking, I heard you were saying about movement, anti-war movement or something like that. There is an organization called Soka Gakkai International of the Philippines. Are you aware of that? I personally participated in several events with them, and they are anti-war movement. If you want to be linked with them, we'll get in touch together. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, the man with the green T-shirt. We'll call on both sides of the room. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am James Matthew Akutim, the spokesperson of Kabataan Party List Quezon City, the first sole and genuine youth representation in Philippine Congress. So my question goes to Her Excellency, the Ambassador from South Africa to the Philippines. Ma'am, given South Africa's bold stance against Israel at the International Court of Justice, since your country also faced apartheid in history, so what were the challenges that South Africa has faced after this? After South Africa filed a case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, and what is South Africa doing to overcome these challenges, and what can other countries, especially from the global South, draw from this experience of yours? Thank you.
Thank you. I've said it before. We had experienced serious backlash. If you know, there's a resolution that is bipartisan in the US that is planning to sanction South Africa. You know, the only advantage that we always say we have a little bit is that we have adopted in South Africa the agenda, Africa Agenda 2063. 2063. That is the agenda that we are looking into Africa as our one trade and diplomatic destination. We are making strides. We have been the founder of the African ACFTA, African Continent Free Trade Agreement, that is looking to at least have at least a 1.6 billion trading among themselves. We are pushing it more than we have ever pushed it before, because you see the difference is the advantage of relying on one superpower to trade with the superpower and the powers be. It does have its own implication. We've seen it with the tariffs. We are all in the same situation, all of us, because they hold so much power. Everything is about trade in the world and it's weaponized. So if you diversify your economy, it's important. We are in the process of accepting Philippines as our trading partner as well. I think the side that the current regime is trying is not easy, because remember, you have almost close to 3 or 4 million Philippines in the US. You rely on the remittance. We are cautious of that as well. We are also appreciating of Philippines' situation as well. We also have appealed to the Philippines to understand our situation as well. But the policy of South Africa is based on moral, solemn, and human rights. It is the founding father of our constitution. And no amount of pressure will put on us that will let us go. That is the beauty we have. And the beauty we have in South Africa is that the youth are not playing in South Africa. You know, they are very clear. They are pro-Palestinian. That is the backbone that we have. We have some backlash. As I tell you, in South Africa, we are the second largest citrus producer. United States, actually, is our #1 trade partner. They are now falling to #5. The issue of citrus, they always find a space of not taking it. Lucky the farmers there have problems now, they've buy it this year. So what is important is that we know what is at stake. There are things that we can never compromise on. We want to hold genocide in Israel accountable. That's another step. The second step is that the backlash, they've tried to reverse, to say we are now taking the farms, as you all know, of the white, we are committing white genocide. Imagine you are saying people are committing genocide, and then they hit it back at you and say you are committing white genocide. One of the things I will tell you, South Africa has got an advantage. It's the only country that has been, most countries in Africa have been colonized, but we've been managed to keep our culture, our surname. I'm Khatebe, and Khatebe is a Zulu. Despite that, we've been colonized for more than 400 years. We have resisted the day the colonizers put foot in South Africa. We have kept our culture, our surname, our kaka, our kaka. They were calling us barbaric and backward. Now they are singing in the same way we sing. So that is one thing for sure we can tell about South Africa. We've also still have deep-rooted apartheid structure. The 7 million we still have in South Africa are still rich. We still work for them. They are still in good position. If you know that South Africa is one of the countries in Africa that has got almost top 200 universities, 3 of them are in South Africa. University of Cape Town, that's where they did the first transplant in the world It's in Cape Town. It's a government hospital where they were Siamens removed. They're in South Africa. So we have one of those institutions, and the white people are not going anywhere. They are telling us. But what we do now is to build the process that they say we're committing genocide. We're not taking them by force. It's in the legislation. We negotiate with you because we have records in South Africa, the advantage we've always said. Remember, South Africa, just like Philippines, was colonized twice. Was colonized first by British and then later by Dutch. So we have record when they were fighting among themselves. They also created an inventory of the land that has been taken. That has helped us because I know my father's farm where it was taken. I can trace it. So we're not committing any genocide. We're simply saying we want to buy the land at the market value. If you want to have exorbitant amount of buying the land, the government is buying the land on behalf of the people, communities that were moved. If your fees are too exorbitant, we then take the land. That is where the constitution says you can negotiate so much. We also in South Africa have got pressure from the young people who are saying we have not moved an inch to address the past imbalances, inequalities. And that is where the pressure is. Not because we want to be politically correct, but we think it's morally correct to address those inefficiencies. So some other people, lobby groups, Israel lobby groups, they have just want to flip that. It's not working because it is the South Africa that has mobilized all the Western countries to isolate Israel. And we think we are on a course to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. The gentleman in black.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthew Scott Sanchez from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, and I'm also a youth and a women's advocate from ASEAN Youth Networks. My question is directed to the Ambassador of the State of the Palestine to the Philippines, Mr. Anastas. Good afternoon. So the question is, given the ongoing challenges in mobilizing international pressure against Israel actions, how can global South countries, especially the youth in the Philippines, strengthen their collective voice and influence in the global platforms like the UN or the Hague? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matthew, for your question. It's a very important question. I think that we should keep in mind that, unfortunately, on the global scene, there is a clear double standard. It has been mentioned earlier. If we compare the reaction of European countries when it comes to Ukraine and the reaction when it comes to Palestine. But if you notice that these same European countries changed their position following the pressure of the street and of the youth. I'm talking about countries like UK, like France, Australia, Canada, and all those who recognize Palestine lately. So the role of the youth is very important. Keep in mind also what happened in the 60s in the case of Vietnam. The universities and the youth played a major role in this regard. The youth in the US and in the same university, actually, in Columbia and all major universities in the US, there were movements. I don't like to say pro-Palestinians. It is pro-humanitarian rights. It is for the truth and the right they have raised. But unfortunately, President Trump is oppressing them. He stopped the funds for Harvard, for example, for Columbia, and so on. So I think the gathering today, for example, such gathering, we see the mean of the age here, it's mainly youth, and this is very important, I think. And it is you who are in this room who are the leaders of tomorrow. There is one leader already here, or two, or three even. But I think it is important to keep in mind that raising awareness is important through you, through the youth. So what is requested is just to speak out loudly and continuously and consistently, defending right and defending truth. It's not only for the Palestinian people, whenever it is right for any people, but in our case, of course, we're talking about the Palestinian people, and especially under this ongoing genocide. And the second thing, and this is very important, is also to advocate for the boycott and to raise awareness about when you buy a McDonald's, indirectly you are supporting the occupying power. When you buy the coffee, what is it, Starbucks, for example, same thing. And again, here, I reiterate, if you have the occasion to look on the report of Francesca Albanese, she details the economic complicity in the genocide of Israel. So youth, as youth, you have a major role to play in this regard. It's your daily acts between you when you talk to each other. Just make it clear that going to McDonald's is a bad thing, is supporting occupation, is supporting genocide. Going to Starbucks, it's the same thing. Going to Burger King, etc., etc. So these are the things that we expect from you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Ambassador. Yes. The foreigner.
Sorry.
Sorry.
And I'd just like to quickly respond by reiterating that it would be helpful for the youth to join organizations that fight for Palestine. So you can join art and cultural organizations, so like Comiqueros for Palestine and Salam Palestine, which I mentioned earlier, and also the Philippines-Palestine Friendship Association. They have a lot of activities that engage the youth. So it's better and more fun and more productive, I think, if we study the Palestinian issue and think of like ways to engage with the issue with friends and comrades and fellow young people than just doing it alone. So and also for students, it would be great to study Arabic, so we can learn to read and translate Palestinian literature to Filipino.
I think one of the things that also maybe Palestinian Philippines can look in, we joined BRICS. We're the last group, that's why it became BRICS. And if you know Trump, what he said, anyone in BRICS has got extra 10%, and indeed we are sitting at 30%. He's not lying. But Brazil is worse, is sitting at 50. China, India is 40, I don't know, I don't know. But you see, that is how you weaponize trade. That's why the issue of diversification is important. Don't rely on one source of your income, because then you are forced to bend what you know culturally, value-wise is not correct. You know what I'm trying to say? I always say, I'm privileged to be black. I stand alone. And to be honest, I stand today to be very lucky, very proud of the country called Mali in Africa. Last week, Trump imposed Mali 15,000, that is what dollars that is allowed for them to go to the US if they want visa. They don't play. The new general in Mali says we also impose 15% for any America who comes here. In 2 days' time, it was reversed. Is Mali important than Philippines? No. Is Mali important than South Africa? We don't think it's a small country. But what informed Trump? Because Mali is trying to get rid of a certain color in Mali. And they use that also to weaponize. If you weaponize against us, we'll use it against you. If you know Mali has no French anymore, it's actually Mali, and it's developing so fast. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria are developing so fast that the whole world is amazed, because they've got rid of. They told the ambassador, we also don't need any French ambassador here. You want us, Trump, to take the ambassador of America out? We can take him tomorrow out. They were very clear and specific. We are all shocked when we hear that. But 2 days, if you read it, go and check Mali. All the things were reversed by the US. Sometimes it's willpower, sometimes it's luck. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, the lady, yeah. After this, now, can we ask those who want to ask questions or comment to make a line in the middle so that it's easier to transfer the mic. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello, ambassadors. It's very nice to see you. My question is more targeted towards our Filipino brethren here in terms of holding people who have been complicit to the genocide in Palestine. It is sad to say that after a lot of IDF soldiers committed and unalive innocent civilians, they come here in Southeast Asia after their job and enjoy and have a good time. And our country has been very open in welcoming them. Well, in fact, we condemn all the actions that they have been doing. And a very good example that is happening right now is in Siargao. And Siargao recently, last week, we had a meeting where they have created a movement called Apartheid Free Siargao. So they are now calling the attention of the local government. We have written a letter to the mayor, to the governor, and even to the barangay officials to address the misbehavings of Israeli soldiers or IDF soldiers having their vacation here in our country, where they are harassing our lumads, they are harassing our local businessmen, pushing them out. And recently we found out there was a synagogue or the Chabad house being created where directly Netanyahu is actually funding the creation of this Chabad house, and we were able to confirm it. So with us Filipinos, how do we help our brethren in Siargao amplify that whatever is happening right now in Palestine and even in countries that they are trying to colonize, because it seems that it has been promised to them 3,000 years ago. How do we come together collectively and speak up also on certain places that are experiencing harassment from IDF soldiers? A part of the Hague group, it says their objective is to hold everybody accountable for in terms of being complicit or making a stand in holding up the humanitarian rights and holding up justice. But I feel like we are so defensive this past few months in addressing this instead of being on the offensive. Because yesterday, we know that Dana Kirsch, the ambassador of Israel, got in touch with the Department of Tourism and the cybersecurity network of our country to come into collaboration in terms of strengthening our so-called ties. So there are so many struggles that we have even inside our own country. But I feel like we're very soft in terms of addressing this. And now that there are so many movements rising up, how do we put ourselves on the offensive so that they would know that we are not tolerating these types of behaviors? We don't just let them become tourists in our country and knowing that they have blood on their hands. So yeah, I'm more interested on the Filipino groups on how do you plan to address this, because I believe that statements, pictures, and optics are not enough. I think there should be a solid ground movement that needs to be done.
Yes, yes. Go ahead, Maria. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you. Uh, First, I want to say thank you so much for sharing that to the room. That's such um, angering information to know what's happening there in Siargao. And thank you also for your involvement in the organizing for those issues. Um, I just wanted to say on behalf of Comikeros for Palestine, we want to help. So if maybe there's something we can do, like we can join a meeting with you guys, if there's something we can do, especially with art and culture, and also giving educational discussions, we would like to be a part of that. Off the top of my head, thinking how we can be more offensive, maybe it's really being precise with how we expose who is behind all of this. Because that's what they do in other countries, right? In other countries where they also have where they have very strong Palestinian solidarity movements. For the ones who are complicit in genocide and occupation, they do not give them a break. They really hound them, even in public, even outside their house. So I don't know, maybe if you want to be offensive, maybe we need to really expose them. And if you're complicit in genocide, no, you need to also feel that pressure to your face.
Yes.
I think to be more assertive, cut ties diplomatically with the state of Israel. Because as a predominantly Christian nation in the Bible, cannot be befriend with the oppressor, right? You should be for the oppressed people. Cut ties diplomatically, get all the overseas Filipino, get all the OFWs from Israel out from Israel and transfer them elsewhere, and then build more economic relations with other global South countries that are pro-Israel, pro-Palestinians.
Yes. Yes, the gentleman in blue. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. My name Murad Bushnak Abu Ali. I am Palestinian living here in Philippines. I hear you, Sir Nasif, if I'm not wrong, and to the madam there talking about the Arab or something like that. I agree with you. Let me tell you a story before I answer you. There is a nice woman, tall woman, pretty, maganda, long hair, playing with her friends. She has 22 friends, playing every day with them. One day, one ugly boy came and he raped this woman. The friends tried to defend on her, but the parents of this friend not allowed them. This woman, in Palestine, this woman, Palestinian, the friend, the Arab country, the parents, the leader of the Arab country. There is difference between the Arab country and the leaders. Is it clear, Mr. Nasif? So they not allowed their son to defend on this woman. They raped the woman, they raped her daughter, Jerusalem, Hebrew, Bethlehem, all the city. The leader keep quiet until this time. Since 1948 until now, they keep silent. We are unlucky with them. We are lucky with you. Now we hear about Palestine everywhere. Before, we don't hear about Palestine in Philippines. They said Pakistan, not Pakistan, Palestine. We are Palestinian. Now we are proud that we have people like you. Free Palestine.
Thank you. Yes, since we have just 12 more minutes left, can we ask the questions? Maybe let's compile the two questions together and then just be concise.
Good afternoon, Your Excellencies. I'm Sebastian Subia from Partido Pandayan of Ateneo de Manila University. This question can be answered by anyone on the panel, but is addressed specifically to both ambassadors. Why should the Filipino government and ordinary Filipinos care about the Palestinian struggle when there are more immediate needs to be addressed at hand, such as affordable housing, access to tenure, food scarcity, job security, and corruption, among other things? Paalala lang po sa atin lahat na hindi nakakain ang prinsipyo. Maraming nagugutom at maraming nag-aalala sa mga pang-araw-araw nilang pangangailangan. Ano kinalaman ng Palestina sa ordinaryong Pilipino? Salamat po.
Thank you. Yes, maybe let's have the last question and then we'll ask the panel to answer. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Feliz po from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, and I'm the president of the League of Innovators in Public Administration Discipline. So my question is actually more of the historical context of what is happening in the Palestine. So given like how the narrative shapes the public memory, specifically misinformation and disinformation, is of course about the technology and media oppression. How might this global call affect the long-term historical record of the Palestine struggle is, especially in the mainstream media of Israel and other countries that support them and erases or distorts it. I mean, like here in the Philippines, for example, the truth about the martial law is being distorted or rewritten in books like, you know, in the historical revision in the future. So 50 years from now, if people or students, you know, look back in this moment, what do you hope they will say about the global South responded, how the global South responded in this Palestine's call for justice, and how do you envision the role of these media and historians rewriting the historical narrative of the global South's engagement with Palestine, like in books and historical literature? That's
Thank you. Yes. Does anyone want to answer first? Is this relevant in the Philippine situation, seeing that we have so many problems on our own? Next, looking into the future, how will the Global South help in the cause of Palestine, seeing that so much is being distorted in the news in the case of Israel? Yes. Sol?
Why should Filipinos care about Palestine? We are seeing crimes against humanity, and that's why, right? What we see happening in Gaza happens here too. The aerial bombardments of communities in counterinsurgency operations, for example, the erasure and genocide of indigenous peoples, knowledge, language. What we see in Gaza is happening here. These are common, this is because of our common humanity. That's why we cannot turn a blind eye. That is the value of solidarity, because when it happens to us, we also depend on others. So just as an example, a concrete example, the arrest of Rodrigo Duterte, former president, for crimes against humanity. It might not be a model for how one should go about trying people at the International Criminal Court, but it's an example, right? These ideas that are currently under fire. I was talking about the fundamental destruction and fragmentation of the international order. But that's all we have left, right? To defend our common humanity. I just want to also answer this question of 50 years from now. I'm afraid that 50 years from now, people will look back and say this was the time, unfortunately, that we witnessed ethnic cleansing, genocide in Palestine and other places. What I'm hoping is 100 years from now, people will say, that's when the tide shifted. We are currently in a period of crisis, a crisis of institutions, a crisis of values. But if this is a crisis, things can still change. And one hopes that in the longer arc of history, that it will still bend towards justice.
The ambassador, yes.
I'm going to say just two things. I think Palestinians should care about Gaza. Your consciousness as Christians, you go to church every day. Where is it? Where is it? I once said something in my church. There was a lot of conflict. I said, I will never come to this church until you sort your conflict, because you will still think you are praising God. Maybe God has long left this building. I have no time for something that is not passionate, compassionate, something that has no human rights. I told my bishops in the eyes, and they were all crying. I said, I don't like hypocrisy. We're here to pray. We're not here to nest each other's nerves. I know, I've said it before, I'm saying it again. I understand the precarious position that Philippines find themselves versus the global north. I understand. But we have to work to find tolerance, independence. That's what we want you to care. Your voice, the truth, that's all we want to say. And human being, to be human being part of it. That's all we will ask for Filipino. We are not saying, okay, fight America. No. We don't fight America as South Africans as well. We put the truth so that other people can see it. We find alternative. One of the alternative we're finding is being member of BRICS, because we think we need to find an alternative governance and global hegemony than to stick to one. That's one thing for sure. That's an opportunity Philippines has, because when the history is written, when the Palestine one day rise, when Global South one day rise, Palestine, we would like to see Philippines' name being engraved as one of the countries that stood with the what is the truth and at the right time. That's all we are asking. I say to you, one of the things that I said in South Africa, we have 9 official languages in South Africa. 9. They are official. This is Zulu, Xhosa, precisely to deal with issues of intolerance, the issue of hegemony, one country, one nation being, one tribe being against another one. We've avoided that because we know what apartheid did. Apartheid built homelands. It made other nations better than others, other tribe in South Africa better than others. And ours was to break it by saying, we are in this province, majority of these people in province are Zulus. You speak Zulu English as a communication language. Tswanas, you speak Tswana as a communication language. Second language is your home language. We have 9. It's not an easy institution that you can manage it. But in South Africa, for you to qualify to go to university, you must have put your home mother tongue and your English as a second language. That is how you break prejudice, ignorance, but you build harmony among the nations. I'm saying to you, Brazil today, celebrated as a Black Brazilian Day. It's in the government calendar. They celebrate it. Those Black Brazilians who came from America to Brazil and then Brazil as slaves, they celebrate it. It's even a holiday. So that's how you kill prejudice, ignorant, because your community is all inclusive. That's what we say. We are asking. Simple thing from Philippines, and to join the global economy that we are building in terms of BRICS as an alternative. Because failure to do so, you will be left down. It may sound nice now, it may sound workable now. Will it be workable in the future, in the long-term future? That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you. I will try to answer very briefly and very quickly because I think we're running out of time. Why the case of Palestine is relevant? What is the relevance of the case of Palestine to the Philippine government? It should be relevant for any government who cares about human rights, very simply. And any nation who pretends that it cares about human rights, it is relevant for them. This is the first thing. And as for the Philippines per se, it is related also to your history. Philippines suffered from colonialism. You know what is colonialism, and it is in your history books. And this is what is ongoing in Palestine, and that's why it is relevant, and that's why the government of the Philippines should care about what is going in Palestine. This is for the first question. The second question, it is a little bit more complicated because we are living in an era of disinformation, and unfortunately the neo-technology is contributing to this distortion of facts. But nevertheless, I think historians in 50 or 100 years will make the research, and the academic researchers will be much more serious, and they will have the facts and the truth, and they will reveal it. And I think that the global South is paying attention to these facts. And finally, one thing that goes back to the previous questions regarding the Israeli soldiers who are coming for tourism here in Philippines. We have a list of such individuals who are involved in the crimes in Gaza, and we are communicating them to the DFA, asking them, and this is what we do with all the countries, not only here in this region, but even in Europe. And fortunately, many countries are very vigilant, and there were some cases of arrests. Now, for the tourism of Filipinos, somebody mentioned the Israeli ambassador, I think it was Sophie, who wanted to enhance the tourism, and she was calling also, she said, we want Filipinos back. And when she was talking about tourism in Israel, between brackets, she mentioned Jerusalem and Bethlehem. Bethlehem is my city. I'm the representative of the state of Palestine. I'm from Bethlehem. I was born in Bethlehem. My family is still there. It is not Israel at all. It is Palestine. East Jerusalem is Palestine. So, to answer the question of Matthew, when anybody around you would like to go for pilgrimage to Palestine, whether to the Nativity Church or the Holy Sepulchre or to the Aqsa Mosque, tell them to go to the Palestinian side, to the Palestinian hotels, through the Palestinian tourism offices and not the Israeli tourism offices. You are allowed, you don't need a visa to come to Palestine, similar to Israel. So you encourage everybody to go to Palestine, to go to East Jerusalem, which is the capital of the state of Palestine. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ambassador Anastas and Ambassador Nechistendi. Now we will have the presentation of the certificates. Yes, so I'd like to call Dr. Guillermo, Dr. Natividad, and Dean Moratilla for the presentation of the certificates. So this is certificate of, yeah. Can we ask you to stand up so we can have the picture taking? Yes, so Ambassador first. His Excellency Munir Y.K. Anastas for serving as a main speaker during the Symposium Global South Action on Palestine, a symposium engaging the Hague Group, held on 29 October 2025, 2 p.m. at the GT Toyota Asian Center Auditorium. Yes, can we have a round of applause, please? Now for Her Excellency Bartina Radeve Nechizende, the Ambassador of South Africa, for serving as a main speaker during the Symposium on the Global South Action on Palestine, a symposium engaging the Hague Group, held on 29 October 2025, 2 p.m. at the GT Toyota, UP Diliman. Thank you, Ambassador. Yes. Now for Dr. Sol Dorotea Iglesias, Associate Professor, UP Department of Political Science, for serving as a reactor during the Symposium, Global South Action on Palestine, a symposium engaging the Hague Group, held on October 29, 2025 at the GT Toyota, UP Diliman. Thank you.
And I want to go to the bathroom first.
Yes. Unfortunately, Professor Nasef Adyong had to leave. He has a flight in the airport, so he had to leave. So I'll call Ms. Faye Kura, Gantala Press, for serving as a reactor during the symposium, Global South Action on Palestine, a symposium engaging the Hague Group, held here in October 29 at the GT Toyota Asian Center. Yes. Yes, thank you. Yes. Now for Maria Maranan of Comiqueros for Palestine. For serving as a reactor during the symposium Global South Action on Palestine, a symposium engaging the Hague Group, held on October 29 at the GT Toyota Auditorium. Thank you. Yes, now for closing, the Dean of Asian Center will present closing remarks. Yeah, sorry. Can everyone stand up again for a group picture taking?
Picture, picture.
So now the Dean of Asian Center, Noel Christian Moratilla, will present the closing remarks. Maybe can we just take our seats for the last few minutes? Last 2 minutes, sit down. Last 2 minutes. Yes, can we ask for the others still to sit down for the closing remarks? Yes, Ambassador. Yes, Ambassador. 6 years. Sorry. In November. 29 November. Sorry. Last 2 minutes. Last 2 minutes. Yeah, last 2 minutes. Sorry, just for the just for the closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is going to be brief, I promise. So magandang hapon po sa lahat. On behalf of the Asian Center, I'd like to express that we're immensely grateful and proud of the opportunity to host this very important symposium. As we speak, the Israeli government is again unleashing another wave of violence on the people of Gaza, clearly an indication that Trump's much trumpeted ceasefire was nothing but a farce, believed only by unhinged and delusional clowns like him, with due respect to clowns. Just a few hours ago, the Prime Minister of Israel instructed his forces to conduct powerful, quote-unquote, assault against Gaza. When I was checking the internet earlier, just a few hours ago, it was just 30, but the ambassador actually got to have an updated figure. It's now 42. So 42 civilians have been killed so far under the pretext of retaliating after Hamas allegedly had attacked Israel's troops. The world is seeing how Israel, the United States, and their equally contemptible allies can flout and violate international laws and commit murder and mayhem with such impunity. If it's any consolation, these crimes are being recorded and shared, and it will be passed on to generations so that they too will know about the evil perpetrated by the murderous Israeli government and its partners. More than 67,000 and counting, that is the current death toll among Palestinians, including children, women, and the elderly. And anyone who would mince their words and refuse to call this what it is, a genocide, ought to be ashamed. It is a genocide, and it should be denounced in no uncertain terms, and it should be ended. Right now, we do not have enough power to end the genocide and bring Israel's Prime Minister to justice and make him pay for innocent lives that have perished since and before October 7. But there are other means at our disposal to condemn the genocide and its agents, including companies supporting Israel. They too are complicit, and they too have blood on their hands, and they should be sapped of their resources, without which Israel's genocidal war machine would find it difficult to continue its murderous rampage. We also have conversations such as this, the one we just held this afternoon, as a strategy to gather activists, academics, and everybody else who is outraged by the ongoing genocide and the oppression and injustice victimizing Palestinians for almost 80 years. Allow me to end with something that I composed to memorialize the lives and sacrifices of the Palestinian people. Could you please, Danay? Sorry, I'll just make it short. Okay, and unfortunately it's not so readable, but allow me to read the lines. It's called In Praise Of. And I start with an epigraph from Adorno, which goes, "It is barbaric to write poetry after Auschwitz. How can it be barbaric to write of Gaza when words can't be marshaled to capture the loss? Because metaphors fade and fail, concealing only the grief, repressing the rage. For instance, a wilted flower can't just be a child killed by drone strikes. Bodies pulled from the rubble aren't just shards of glass. Anguish is more than a downpour that uproots trees or defaces mountains. Even if one reads out the names of martyrs, Khaled, 74, Wahaba, 32, Ibrahim, 4, Rania, 8 months. Words cannot console those who survive. When written, such lines only bleed through the paper, stain the skin, plague the heart. End the genocide and justice to the Palestinian people." Marami pong salamat at magandang hapon.
So we end the forum. Thank you for expressing your solidarity with Palestine. And just an announcement for those who are members of the Hague Group, there will be a closed-door meeting here in the auditorium. Yes. Thank you again for the panel and all your participation. Thank you.
Maikling announcement lang ho. Sa mga gustong sumama sa meeting para sa pagpaplano ng mga activities para suportahan ng Palestine, ito ay mangyayari right after this forum. So meron tayong 1 oras para magkaroon ng discussion. Maraming salamat. May meeting pa kayo after? Wala naman.
Nakaka-depress. It could be, right? It could be, right? Sana. Sabagay. No, I'm still tripped up by that question of
Cheese Whiz has calcium that helps make your bones strong.